Summary of A Long Way Home by Saroo Brierley. As an adult, Saroo stands in front of the house in India where he grew up. He can't believe that no one lives in the tiny house. When a young woman from the next house comes out to help, Saroo starts to name the people who live there. The woman says that they no longer live there. When two more guys show up, Saroo says the names of his family again. One guy takes a page of pictures from Saroo's childhood, goes away for a few minutes, and then comes back. He tells Saroo to follow him and that he will take Saroo to his mother. When Saroo is 6, he is taken in by a family. He grows up in Hobart, Tasmania. His mother puts a picture of India on his wall to make him feel like he is at home. Even though Saroo hasn't had much trouble getting used to his new life, he does worry about his Indian family every night. Saroo starts to talk about his life in India after a while. When he tells his mom how he got lost and ended up in Calcutta, she is shocked. Together, they draw a map of Saroo's hometown and the train ride to Calcutta. Saroo takes his story back to when he was a child in India. His parents split up when he is very young, and the only clear memory he has of his birth father is when he was 4 years old and went to see his birth father's new baby. His mother, Kamla, takes him, his baby sister Shakila, and his brothers Gudu and Kalu to visit for a day. The children go to their father's house by themselves. The next day, Kamla's father and Saroo's father start fighting, which causes a riot in the street. When Saroo's father throws a rock at Kamla, however, the riot ends. Saroo's family lives in a Muslim area in a poor town called Jinistle even though Kamla is Hindu. Kamla works on construction projects and is usually gone for several days at a time. Gudu and Kalu sell small things at train stops and clean train cars for a living, while Saroo goes door to door to ask neighbors for food. When he can, Saroo also takes food. Gudu and Kalu spend more time at Berhampur, a train stop down the road where they can find food and money more easily as they get older. Saroo spends his time with Shakila and Baba, a religious leader in the area. When Saroo is 5 years old, he wants Gudu to take him back to Berhampur with him one night. Yes, says Gudu. Saroo, on the other hand, gets tired fast. When they get to the station, Gudu tells Saroo to stay where he is and take a nap. He says he will come back. Saroo does what he is told, but a while later he wakes up with a start. In front of him is a stopped train. Saroo gets on the train because he thinks Gudu is on it. The doors close, sealing Saroo. He cries, sleeps, and panics for about 15 hours as the train speeds away from his home and family. The train finally stops at the end of the track, which is a big, busy station. Saroo won't get any help from the adults. Saroo figures that he should be able to take a train home again, so he starts hopping on trains and riding them out. No one brings him home. After about a week, Saroo sees a group of men trying to drag a group of children who are screaming out of the station. Saroo runs away and into Calcutta's busy streets. He walks near the river and is scared when he sees dead and mangled bodies. However, he finds some kids playing in the water and joins them. He jumps in the same place later, not knowing that the water level had risen. A poor person saves him from drowning, and then the next day, he does the same thing. As Saroo looks for food in the city, he runs into a group of boys who chase him. He tries to sleep near holy men because he feels safer around them. Saroo is almost asleep on the train tracks one afternoon. A train worker gives Saroo a place to sleep and food, and Saroo takes him up on his offer. When the train worker brings a friend to help Saroo the next day, Saroo knows right away that the friend wants to hurt him. Later the next day, Saroo just barely gets away. On the other side of the huge bridge, Saroo meets a little boy and his mother. They give him a place to stay for the night, but Saroo's mother doesn't have time for him when he doesn't listen to her. A few days later, Saroo meets a teen who talks to him with a lot of patience and kindness. Saroo spends a few days with the teenager before the teenager takes Saroo to the cops. Saroo is afraid of the cops, but they feed him and ask him where he comes from. They take him to a place that looks like a jail, where Saroo tries to stay away from bullies. After a month, Saroo goes to the court for children and is given to Mrs. Sood and the adoption service ISSA. She takes him to a shelter called Nava Jivan and tries to find his family for a few weeks. She finally asks Saroo if he wants them to find him a new home. Saroo knows he doesn't have any other options, so he decides to be adopted by a couple in Australia named the Brierleys. Azra, a friend of Saroo's, will also be adopted by a pair in Australia, and the two of them journey on the plane together. In September 1987, they get to Melbourne. Saroo knows his mom and dad right away, even though they can't talk to him. Saroo has to get used to some things in his new life, but he does so quickly and is happy with his new life. He is completely unaware of the racist remarks he hears, and he loves going to school. 2 years later, mom and dad bring Muntosh into their family. The whole thing takes 2 years, during which time Muntosh's mother gets sick and he is physically and sexually abused. Muntosh has a hard time getting used to life in Australia once he gets there. Saroo tells the story of how his parents decided to adopt him. Julie and Joseph, mom's parents, moved to Australia after World War II was over. Joseph was affected by what he saw and did in the war. At first, he was kind and trustworthy, but he soon became angry and insane. Mom was afraid of him as a child and quit school at 16 to get away. A few years later, she met her dad. They got married and moved to Hobart. Mum was sure she wanted to adopt because of what happened with Joseph and a dream she had when she was 12 in which she saw herself with a brown-skinned kid. Before the law let mom and dad adopt Saroo, they had to wait 16 years. Once they could, it only took them 7 months to do so. By the time he starts high school, Saroo feels like any other kid. He has dates and messes around with his friends, but when his parents give him an option, he decides to focus on school again. He starts out getting a degree in accounting, but he likes his job in hospitality so much that he decides to get a degree in hotel management instead. He goes to a school in Canberra for this. There, he meets a group of Indian students who are very interested in hearing his story. Most of them think it's possible for Saroo to find his family, so he starts to look for Jinistlay and Berhampur on Google Earth. In 2009, Saroo will finish his degree and move back to Hobart. Instead of getting a job in service, he joins his dad at the family business. Saroo moves in with her friend Byron after a hard breakup. Since Byron has fast internet, Saroo starts to think about finding his family all the time. He comes up with a plan to follow every train line from Howrah station in Kolkata out to a radius of 1,000 kilometers, which is how far he thinks he went as a child. Soon after that, he starts seeing a woman named Lisa, and they move in together. In 2010, Saroo finally finds his hometown by accident. It's far from where he started looking, and it's called Kundava, which is a name he's never heard. Even so, all of the features match up, and he finds the Burhanpur station, which must be the Berhampur he knows. He tells Lisa, and over the next few days, it's hard for him to tell dad and mom. He looks for a Facebook group to see if Kundava is really his hometown. Saroo finds out after a while that he grew up in the Kundava neighborhood of Ganesh Talai, which is called Jinistlay. Saroo thinks that he needs to go to Kundava by himself to find his Indian family. His parents want to come with him, but he won't let them. In 2012, he goes to Kundava. As he walks around, he feels nervous because the streets are both familiar and very different. Soon, he figures out that the main reason they look different is that the town now has power. When Saroo gets to the house he remembers, he finds it empty. The scene he describes at the beginning of the book happens, and the man brings Saroo to his mother. After a short time, Saroo and Kamla realize they know each other, and soon there is a party. Kalu and Shakila arrive hours after Kamla calls for them. They all cry and hold each other. With the help of interpreters, they are able to say a few words. Kamla says she's thankful that his mom and dad raised him, because she only wants the best for him. Sad to say, Saroo finds out that Guddu died around the same time that he went missing. On Saroo's second day, local and national media start showing up, and he talks to his family with the help of a woman named Cheryl. When he gets back to Hobart, media from Australia and around the world start calling him. He wants to share his story in case it can help someone else. Saroo talks to his family in India often through video chat, and he goes back to India in early winter. He finds out that Shakila and Kalu were able to go to school after he and Guddu left. Kamla didn't leave Ganesh to lie because she hoped Saroo would come back, and for some reason, she saw him the day before he did. Saroo also meets Rochuk, who is in charge of the Facebook group that helped him figure out the Jinistlay puzzle. Finally, Saroo decides that he wants to go back to Burhanpur and then to Kolkata to see how he got there. Setting this up makes Saroo question many of the things he remembers from his childhood, since the trip can't be done in less than 24 hours and Indian train cars are never empty, like he remembers them being. After 30 hours on the train, he gets off at Howrah station and looks at the station, the Hooghly River, and the Howrah Bridge. He goes to Isa to see Mrs. Sood and gets to look at his adoption file. Finally, he goes to Lilua, the home that was like a jail and where he lived before he went to ISSA. Still, it's a scary place. After that, he walks across the Howrah Bridge and thanks the youngster who saved him in silence. A year later, they meet again because of the news show 60 Minutes. It's an intense event, and the happiness can't be put into words. Saroo says that he is in the process of getting Kamla a house and is also helping pay for fixes at the Navajivan orphanage. He's thankful for everything that happened and doesn't feel bad about anything.
About the author. In his biography, Saroo writes that he was born in Khandava, a small town in central India, to a Muslim father and a Hindu mother. He was their third child and his real name was Saroo when he was born. When Saroo was very young, his father left the family, so he, his brothers, and their mother had to do whatever they could to make money for the family. They were very poor, and Saroo and his brothers were often left alone at home for days at a time. When he was 5, he got on the wrong train and went to Calcutta, which is one of India's most dangerous towns. He lived on the streets for a few weeks before he was found by the police. The Calcutta officials gave him a birth date based on the month and day he arrived at the orphanage. Within 7 months, a family in Tasmania, Australia, took him in and gave him the name Saroo Brierley. He got a degree in hospitality when he was young, but after he got it, he went to work with his father in the family hosepipe business. While he was in college, he started using Google Earth to look for his hometown. It took him 5 years, but he finally found it. In 2011, he went back to Khandava for the first time and saw his mother, younger sister, and older brother. He's been back a few times since then, and he's doing what he can to help his cousins and nephews, buy his mother a house, and help the orphanage in Calcutta that helped him get adopted. He lives in Tasmania, in Hobart.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.